Howdy ho, America. Jim Hightower here, back with another Hightower Lowdown Happy Hour on Facebook, talking about all sorts of populist style issues of what's happening to regular people and how the powers that be are running roughshod over the powers that ought to be. The workaday people of this country, the consumers, the small business folks, just the average people of our country. And here we are, post Joe Biden election, just certified by the Electoral College, much to the amazement of Donald Trump and Bill Barr and other creeps. So there he is. Biden is in office. And so we have Biden, and we being largely progressive forces in this country. Black Lives Matter, labor unions, farm groups, people responded, and they cast the orange menace out the White House office window. But now we've got Biden, so what? What do we have? And what do we do? Having him doesn't mean that progress has descended upon us. It means that we have to get busier than ever. So how do we get the most out of Joe? And that's what we want to talk about with y'all tonight. So all of you folks all across the country. And by the way, we're joined no longer just with our Facebook crowd, you rough and rowdy regulars out there, but also we're now screaming and screening out there on Free Speech TV. This is an amazing resource that a lot of people don't know about. It is a television network that reaches out primarily to places that do not get cable. So we're talking about Bismarck. We're talking about Bogalusa. We're talking about Bartlesville. We're talking about the country out there that is called the flyover country. This TV network reaches 40 million people out across America that normally don't get heard from and don't get their news from the establishment sources. So, hello, here we come. We want to hear from you. So tune in and call in too. Visit with us. Deanna, as always, Deanna, the disembodied voice of Hightower Lowdown Happy Hour, is always there to receive your comments and direct them toward us. And tonight, we've got somebody to help us think through what we have with Biden, but more importantly, what we have to do as a democracy, as regular people. How do we make America work again for us? Not make America great, but make America work for ordinary workaday people. And that would be Senator Sherrod Brown. Sherrod and I actually go way back. He was elected, he was the state representative. And then I think it was 82, wasn't it, Sherrod, that I think you were elected to be the Secretary of State.
That's when we first met. Yep.
In the great state of Ohio. And in that same year, I was elected, much to the amusement of the people of Texas, to be the agriculture commissioner of our state. And I linked up with people like Sherrod, also Byron Dorgan out of North Dakota, who was a state official at that time. And we had this little network of crazy lunatics who were trying to think, well, maybe we could make the world a little bit better if we all teamed up. And Sherrod Brown has been one of those who has always teamed up with us over the years. And Sherrod, you, I just want to say that, I mean, this he's not just another pretty face, as you can see. This is a guy, this is a U.S. senator who has stood up for regular people. From, I believe you're from Central Ohio, right?
From North Central.
All right, but a rural, small town.
Yeah, small city. Grew up working on a family farm. And when you were elected ag commissioner in Texas, it was way bigger news than my getting elected Secretary of State of Ohio. I mean, it was big news when Texas produced Jim Hightower in elective office. So thanks. I love what you said. Powers that be. Powers that ought to be. So you're exactly power that ought to be. So thanks for that.
Well, let's talk about that because, all right, you're a Biden supporter, and I, as a overt maverick populist muckraker, talked to through a group of Noam Chomsky and others of us who went on and said, all right, Biden is a corporate sort of candidate, a corporate Democrat, but we have to do this because
Yep.
Trumpism means we fight nothing but defensive battles. We can't move our progressive agenda forward. So, at the time I said that, I didn't care if he was a 200-pound sack of concrete. We were going to carry Biden into the White House.
Yep.
And now we have him there. So what do we do? How do you think we make him better than he thinks he can be?
Well, I tell you why I'm optimistic. First, thanks, Jim, for doing this show. And Deanna, who's making this show run, she has roots all the way back to Akron, Ohio, and Logan, Ohio. So
how about that?
That school makes me. If I'd known that, I'd been on the show earlier, Jim. So thank you. I look at it this way. A year ago, Joe Biden was not. Joe Biden was planning to restore the country back to pre-Trump normalcy. Then the pandemic hit. Then he got legs in this campaign. I think that Joe Biden has a chance now. I think he knows that he can be a very consequential president, not just restore the country to, what it was before Trump, because it wasn't a good economy for much of America. We know that it wasn't a just justice system, all the things that we know to be true. But Biden has recognized that. And I think he's, from some of his cabinet appointments, from what I think he's going to do right from the start, I think he understands that he's got to do big consequential things on the issues of climate, on the issues of structural racism, on all about wealth equality or inequality. I think that we're going to see a president that's going to think big. I think he's going to come out with strong executive orders to undo a lot of the Trump stuff. Also, for instance, one of them will be to restore the overtime rule. So 5 million Americans will get the overtime pay that they earn every day or every week or every month or every pay period. So I understand he's had a pretty moderate career, but he's a guy that is going to, I think he's going to rise to the occasion of the times. And these times demand something kind of Rooseveltian. I think he could, these are my words, not his, but I think he can think of himself as LBJ or FDR. Winning those 2 Georgia seats will play a big role in that. But even without them, and I think we can win them, but even without them, we can do big things.
But don't we have to goose him up? I mean,
well, we had to goose Roosevelt up. I mean, colloquially,
exactly.
We have 3-2. Yeah, I mean, they used to say, I've heard you say this many times, and the Roosevelt quote, okay, I agree, meeting with all these progressives, whatever they were calling themselves in those days. And he said, okay, I agree with you. Now make me go do it. Right. And it's up to us. It's up to us to organize and push and do what you do in this show all the time, Jim.
Well, Roosevelt actually said, go out and make me do it. That meant go out to the country, go out to the countryside, not rely on lobbyists, not rely on the media, but the people themselves. Go out and organize. And isn't this the perfect time really to do political organizing in 2021 when you're not pushing candidates? We could be door to door on people's doorsteps talking about issues. And if you talk about those issues, including health care for everybody, healthcare for everybody, a Green New Deal, as bold and audacious as the original FDR version of the New Deal, civil justice reform, et cetera. People, if you go talk to them on the porches, they actually agree with these things. Even in red areas of America, they agree with them. And now when we can go out and talk to them without saying, vote for this person, that's an opportunity for the best time to do politics is when you're not doing, quote, politics, and inspire those people to put pressure, not just on Biden, but on the Congress to say step forward.
Yeah, look at some of these initiatives around the country. The minimum wage,
exactly,
$15 is passed by big margins even while Trump was winning a state, even though Trump, of course,
In
opposed
Florida.
it. In Florida, for instance, some civil justice reform in Florida passed with an overwhelming number. I mean, voters are way more progressive than most politicians think they are. I mean, that's why I get elected in Ohio, because they know I fight for those kinds of issues for workers and for consumers and for family farmers. And if you don't, if you use the term flyover country, if Democrats nationally would understand that where Jim Hightower lives and Sherrod Brown lives and all of us live is not flyover country. They're real people with real problems, and we talk to them as adults. And we say, you're 58 years old, you lost your job, you ought to be able to buy into Medicare if you want. You don't think that's popular? Of course it is. But we couldn't get that through a Republican Senate by a long shot, right? So a lot of these things are popular if you talk about the issue, connect them to the candidates later, but talk about these issues and push them. And that's how you win in more red state America, I think.
And but the good news is that's happening. That's what George Gale and the People's Action Group is doing in 30-something states that they're active in. That's what the Georgia Voters Project is. You just don't go to voters in the last 6 weeks of a campaign. You go to them right now. And you're talking about what's on their mind and trying to connect that to some sort of progressive policy that would actually make a difference in their lives. And I think, I think that's a big issue. Let me just finish this one thought.
Okay,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that people want to know that some difference could be made. I mean, issues are one thing, but nothing happens. How do we make it happen?
Yeah, you do. I mean, I think Biden understands. There's an article I read by a guy named for Vox by a guy named David Roberts, and he said the article fundamentally says Joe Biden needs to do big things right up front, right at the beginning. Right. You remember Obama did some big things, but it was one after another, and the interest groups came in and pushed back each time. If we do big things quickly, and like the overtime rule, like Medicare at 55, like helping students with student debt. We do some things, the earned income tax credit. So low income people get a $250 check every month from the government. We do those kinds of things early. What I look to is by summer, like you said, the last 3 months, summer of 2022, a whole lot of voters are going to say, I voted for Joe Biden and Gene Sheehan in New Hampshire. I voted for Joe Biden and Reverend Warnock in Georgia, and my life got better. I mean, imagine that. If we can do things and remind people of them, and then show and people understand my life got better, I'm going to vote this time. Because the reason we lose off-year elections is not that an Obama voter becomes a Republican. It's that an Obama voter in 2010 or 2014 just thought, my life didn't get enough better. Why bother voting? So exactly. We've got to give people a stake. And you voted for Biden, and your life actually got better. And here's how. And I'm going to tell my neighbors that, and that's going to matter. And it's going to make me more of an activist in the future.
Well, that's real politics, right? And that is how politics actually ought to work. I mean, and that's how the Republicans stay in it, because they deliver to the corporate elites and the moneyed interests, and so they support them. They pour money in, and et cetera. So, but let's talk about going where you are and how you go out in the state of Ohio into areas that Trump wins. I called it flyover country, but it's really largely rural areas, and the media has cast rural America as Trump country, as white, but it's much more complex than that, and the needs in those areas are the needs that are in every area, which is healthcare, decent income, opportunities for their children, et cetera.
And it's making people see who's on your side, and making the contrast between what McConnell and his corporate elite do and what those of us that fight for progressive politics do. I mean, Emerson said the history is a battle between the conservators and the innovators. The conservators want to hold under their privilege, and the innovators want to do what you want to do, want to move the country forward. And I think we need to show every day that we're on their side, and that Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump. I mean, he's going to be gone, but Mitch McConnell always, every time he gets a chance, they want to privatize Medicare, they want to privatize Social Security, they want to cut back on unemployment insurance. And we make the contrast. We're the party that stands up on Medicare, stands up on Social Security, stands up for unemployed workers to get that weekly $600 a week check. And that's as good a message in rural America as it is in small cities and big metro areas, because people care about social insurance, they care about Medicare, they care about Medicaid, they care about Social Security, they care about unemployment insurance, and we're the party that fights for that. But how often do you see now Democrats saying, McConnell and that group wants to privatize Medicare and Social Security, we're going to stand strong on it, and that you make that contrast, you win elections.
But we actually have to be out there, and the National Democratic Party is not out there. They're counties with no Democratic presence whatsoever. I think the National Party with its funders ought to have, even if it's a one-person office in every county in America, they ought to put somebody out there. So we're talking to people and bringing these real policies of change. Farmers, you're on the agriculture committee, and you've stood tall for farmers. Something I know something about, and I follow that. But our party has not. We've basically gone to the countryside, to farmers, and said, well, we're not as bad as Trump. Well, that's not a big selling point with a dirt farmer who's out there with a mortgage and out there with a debt on the farm, out there facing seed companies that are monopolies, facing bankers that are monopolists, lenders that are facing then the big meat, Tyson and Smithfield and et cetera. And so they're squeezed on both sides by monopolies. Shouldn't the Democrats be, and one of the first things that Biden should do is to push a farm program that says we're going to break the monopolies so that farmers and people in rural areas have a chance to make a go again.
Yeah, we farmers intuitively understand that, particularly if it's a second or third generation farm, they understand that they're not getting near they get a smaller and smaller part of the food dollar every year. What I spend at the grocery store, so little of that, it really does trickle down.
They're down to 15 cents. 15
yeah,
cents.
It's down to 15 cents. And probably the years you and I were born, Jim, some decades ago, it was 3 times that, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So it's clear that this system. I mean, I talk a lot about the dignity of work, and the dignity of work is whether you punch a clock or swipe a badge or work for a tip or work as a farmer. And we don't respect if the word respect is defined in part by how much you're paid, how much your benefits are, how you're treated at work, all those things. And farmers don't get the respect in terms of making a living that they used to, nor do factory workers, nor do workers in much of anywhere in this country, because it so often flows to the top, as you know.
Yeah, it's like a job, just exactly like you're saying. The Republican, Trump came out and said, "Wow, I've created all these jobs." But you could go to any town in America and talk to a waitress, and she'd say, "Yeah, I've got 3 jobs,
Right. Yep.
but I don't have an income."
Yeah, that's right.
So that's the issue, and that's the issue with farmers as well. So really, rural areas and urban areas have the same issues. And we've got to build that bridge to saying we understand the needs of both of those. I understand from Deanna that we have some people who want to comment here. Deanna, speak to us.
Well done. Well, y'all have ESPN because you answered the first question I was going to ask. But I do, because there was, what should we address first? Farmers and getting everybody on the same page. Amen to that. I do want to shout out where some of our audience is watching from. We've got Loudon, Tennessee, Amarillo, Texas, San Diego, Massachusetts, Columbus, Nebraska, Floyd, Virginia, Indiana, South Georgia, Iowa City. I could go on, but we're really talking to folks from every part of the country and not just, these typical places that get all the attention when it's politically convenient. So what other kind of priorities are you thinking about, and how are y'all thinking about building that bridge, doing that work? What are some of the ideas coming out?
Well, let me answer it. Let me answer it in this way, Deanna, that we started something in Ohio in 2019. We call it our Canary Candidate Program. And it's based on this pen I wear. You can't really see it very well. I assume it was given to me at a Workers' Day, Memorial Day rally, where the mine worker used to take the canary down in the mines. If the canary died, the mine worker got out of the mines. He knew he had no union strong enough to protect him. He had no government that cared enough to protect him. And we started this program with local candidates for city council and village council and township trustee and school board and state legislature and county office, and began to work with them and help them. Most of them had never been candidates before and didn't know how to do this. And the beauty of that, in part, is, first of all, a number of them won, but it also my favorite Abraham Lincoln quote was, "I got to go out and get my public opinion bath." And these local candidates are they're going to the local Grange, or they're going to the local diner, they're going to work in a small town or in a big city, and people that often don't have voices talk to them. And that's where a lot of these ideas come from. And so one of the early things we're going to do, if we win Georgia, is the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Another one of the early things we'll do is the PRO Act, protecting our right to organize. 70% of America now believes and has positive views about unions, and more than half of America would join a union if they had the chance. So all of those things are important. And the whole idea is you empower people, whether they're rural, whether they're urban, whether they're metro, whether they're small town. And our government doesn't think about that often enough. And it's up to Hightower and me and others to make sure the Biden people are thinking about it front and center.
Well, and that's what we've got to put forward is the notion that we can actually all come together and do something about this, but only if we actually take action. There's an old saying that you can't herd cats, but anyone who says you can't herd cats never tried a can opener. They will come. And
I've never heard that one from you, Jim.
And our can opener are those values of economic fairness, social justice, equal opportunity for all people. That's all Americans want.
Yep.
Really. I mean, every issue comes down to that. But we've got to push that, and we have to push. I know you've got a little more faith in Biden than I do, but okay, let's see. I mean, there he is. We want him to succeed, so let's push from the outside and say all of us cats are coming in here and saying we want fairness, we want justice, we want opportunity, and that's we in the rural areas, and that's we in the inner cities. Civil justice reform, anti-monopoly, et cetera. People really want big change, and I guess that's one thing. I think that's what I'm babbling around here to try to say to you is that this is a time when people know that it's not working. And they don't want incrementalism and little dings here and there. They want fundamental change that gets us back to those concepts of fairness and justice and opportunity.
Well, I think the importance of your show is that people do want big change, and number two is how much all of America has in common across racial lines, across urban and rural areas. That I think this whole half hour has been about how people, whether it's Social Security or Medicare, whether it's wages, whether it's healthcare, that rural people and urban people want so much of the same things. And I'm just, we had a president for 4 years that just divided us always on everything, making this group hate that group and this group question the integrity of that group. And we will see something different now in tone, and it's up to us to make sure that the change is big. So we'll do this again, Jim. I appreciate this.
Well, let me ask you one more thing, final thing, and that is about the U.S. Senate. of which you are.
Yep.
Udall, Senator Udall, didn't run this. He resigned. Basically, didn't resign. He retired. But he made a pretty scathing assessment of what it's like to be in the Senate. It seems to me, of course, I'm from a state that's got Ted Cruz, who has the worst beard in America, by the way. But that's another topic. But Ted Cruz and people like that. We got too many 5-watt bulbs sitting in 100-watt sockets in there. Can the Senate work? Can we? I know a lot of people who might be potential Senate candidates who would say, "I don't want to go there."
Well, it could work. It's Mitch McConnell is first of all, if we win the 2 Georgia races, I think you're going to see a Senate, even though it'll be 50-50 or 51-50 with the vice president. You will see things happen. You'll see some big things happen. But with McConnell there, it's what interest group can you help today? And that's what McConnell's all about. In the Senate, right. The Senate does nothing that doesn't help his corporate friends. And to me, the worst kind of politician next to an outright crook is one born into privilege, and they think that their job is to help the privilege get more privilege. And that's what with McConnell and with all the spineless people around him, all the other Republican senators, including your 2 from Texas, they enable him to, every time there's a fork in the road, corporate interests or workers, it's corporate interests, and it's making the wealthy more rich and making the powerful more powerful. And that's what the Senate is. It doesn't have to be. It's not the Senate rules. It's who's there and who's in the majority.
We got to build that grassroots power that creates more Sherrod Browns to go to the Senate, as you did when you were 15 years old or whenever it was that you first went to the Senate. But anyway, but that's the change that we have to have. So there was a humorist at the turn of the last century named Ken Hubbard. And he once said that every now and then an innocent person gets sent to the legislature. And that's what I think we have with Sherrod Brown. So we appreciate you. And we're going to keep in touch with you and follow up on some of this.
I appreciate the work you do always, Jim. Thanks, buddy.
You too. Thank you, Sherrod.
Thanks, Dan.
Sherrod Brown, Senator from Ohio. Thank you all for tuning in, and particularly all you Free Speech TV people who tuned in to us for the first time. We're going to be regulars with you, as I understand, and we have multiple guests coming up. In fact, we've got Zephyr Teachout, who's going to be with us out of New York State, a tremendous force for anti-corporate, anti-monopoly power. But meanwhile, stay happy on the Hightower Happy Hour.